From folklore and fairies
to monsters and mysteries, it came from the Maritimes. Seeing spectacular things, but only getting blurry photos, my co-host, Chelsea.
Conducting questionable scientific experiments in his lab, my co-host, Evan.
Hi everyone, welcome to It Came From The Maritimes. Today's topic is the meteoric mystery of the Bloody Creek crater, as well as the soldier spirits of British battles in the area. As a warning, we discuss battles and war between the British, Acadian French, and indigenous groups in the area, and a brief mention of a fishing boat catching on fire.
There's a lot to cover in this episode.
There is. I'm going to get right into it.
Excellent.
"The sky is falling" is a famous quote from the story of Chicken Little. But what if it was something larger than an acorn? The tale may have been true in Nova Scotia, and the proof exists under Dalhousie Lake, near the town of Bridgetown. The Bloody Creek crater, also known as the Astrid crater, is oval in shape and measures 350 by 420 meters, with a rim approximately 1 to 2 meters high. Lower down in the crater is 10 meters of peat from when the crater was filled by a fen, meaning that the crater from highest to lowest is about 12 meters deep. It was discovered by Dr. George R. Stevens, a now retired geologist from Acadia University, in 1987. Unfortunately, about 10 years prior to the discovery, Nova Scotia Power flooded the area to make a hydroelectric dam, and the crater is now submerged under Dalhousie Lake. This means that all investigations have to be done in scuba gear or when the lake is drained for maintenance.
So I have a quick question. How was the crater discovered after the lake was made? Like, is that something that came up in the research?
I don't fully remember. I think that it might have been through from overhead views from flying over, they were still able to see it in the area. But yeah, it is kind of weird how they didn't really find it until afterwards. I think that there was some flying over and some historical records.
I'm just impressed that they found the crater, because when we drove through the area and got out of the car to take a peek at the lake, all I found was a tick crawling up my leg.
Yeah, I remember that, and all I found was a lot of mosquitoes.
It was a very beautiful lake. I would love to see, it would be so cool if they ever drained the lake to see the crater itself.
Yeah, and apparently they do for maintenance on the dam, but it's pretty few and far in between.
Probably not something we'd get access to at this point in our early podcast days.
I don't think they're going to call us specifically to come.
It's a future goal, Evan.
We'll see. This is one of 127 known extraterrestrial impact craters. While the name sounds exciting, it only suggests that it is due to something from beyond our planet, which is believed to be an asteroid. So extraterrestrial doesn't necessarily mean an alien, I guess is what I'm saying. It is hard to know for sure, though is believed to be a low impact angle due to the shape of the crater, and based on what I found on an online calculator, the asteroid was probably between 7 and 15 meters in diameter. Please, if anyone knows anything about this type of thing, tell me if I'm wrong. This was me plugging a bunch of things into a calculator, and I have no clue if I'm right. I'm not a geologist.
Evan, I love that you were crunching numbers. This is commitment to the episode.
I was there and I was feeling really good, and then it started asking me a lot of different things, and it was like, well, what's the density of this asteroid? And I was like, I really can't tell you. I'm gonna need to make a guess. And then I was just Googling what asteroid densities are, and then it got a little iffy.
I admire the determination and the effort.
Thank you. There were several smaller craters in the area, which are believed to have been due to pieces breaking off of the main asteroid. The age of the crater is believed to have been from the Neogene era, which is about 23 million years ago. For context, the asteroid that was believed to have killed the dinosaurs is believed to have been about 66 million years ago.
Very cool.
Yeah. Due to the age, it only allows us to speculate on many of the aspects of this crater. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the same supernatural aspects as some of our episodes, but I do want to interject here with some possible theories about the surrounding area. I started this one and I thought it was just pretty neat that there's something so big, such a big impact crater in the area. And then, since we're doing this podcast, I was like, well, obviously it's due to aliens. But as it turns out, geologists don't want to attribute everything to aliens.
They don't?
They don't.
What on earth? Why not?
I know. But what I will say is, I found some alien sightings in the area, so I'm going to talk about those. This is not too far from Shag Harbor, which is Nova Scotia's most famous UFO sighting. But there's another story that was mentioned briefly in my Oak Island episode, which was a sighting of 15 ships floating in the sky, along with maybe a giant man, and it was seen from the New Minas area in 1796. So maybe those were some aliens coming back to the area to look for whatever crash landed here a really long time ago.
I like that theory.
I know, and while there's no proof of alien interaction, it does seem like things from other worlds do end up here in Nova Scotia. So I'm going to kind of bring us back to some other things related. Before I move on to some more stories about Bloody Creek, I want to bring things back to Chicken Little. Well, I don't know if any living creature was in the way of the asteroid that left the Bloody Creek crater. There was a case in 1936 of a fishing boat being hit by a meteorite off the coast of Newfoundland. It's said to have caused the boat to light on fire, and though there is no word what happened after that, there is also many other stories of meteorites hitting things, though unlike Chicken Little, I don't want to cause fear. So with that, I'll say that based on a couple of sources, it's predicted that meteorites only hit a human on Earth approximately once every 180 years. So unless you are incredibly unlucky, you are unlikely to be in the path of these projectiles.
I do feel more comforted, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I wish I had looked up when the last time someone was hit by a meteorite is, but I guess if that boat counts as a part of it, that's, 180 years past that. We still have some time.
That's it. I do have to say that a couple of these events happening in Atlantic Canada, now I want to go and research what's happened in the rest of Canada just to see if it is focused over this area or if it's just those are the stories we know about because we're from here.
Yeah, and I'll say I did some research online, but I think that if you want the real details, you might need to be better at going through scholarly articles than I am.
Evan, don't push yourself down. You did some calculations. You are a great scientist.
Once we get some geologists coming for us, we'll see.
Yes, geologists, be nice to us.
Geologists, don't cancel me, please. The Bloody Creek crater itself might not have much paranormal activity, and I was hoping to see a little more when I was researching the episode, but what I did find was some other ghostly occurrences in the area. There are 2 historic battles in Bloody Creek, which are what give it its name, and the site is now a National Historic Site. Along with these battles come the ghosts of fallen soldiers. The first battle was in 1711, following the capture of Port Royal from the French. When the British took over, they renamed it Annapolis Royal, which is what the name of the area is today. The French didn't take this capture lightly, and French missionaries to the local indigenous people rallied troops to harass the British forces and prevent further expansion. The British had a problem, as after they took over the fort, they had no logs to repair it, and local Acadian people had no love for them. So basically, they damaged the fort taking it over, and then all the local Acadians were like, well, we're not going to help you fix it.
Honestly, fair enough.
On top of that, the Mi'kmaq and Abenaki groups were waiting near the settlement, and any who wandered out would be attacked. The British realized that they needed to send out soldiers to protect loggers, and that's what they did. A group of 70 men left Annapolis Royal up the Annapolis River on a whaleboat. Because they were so reliant on the tides in the area, scouts were able to run ahead and set an ambush. Stories differ, but they say between 50 and 150 Indigenous soldiers attacked the British. In the end, they killed 16 and took the rest of the British infantrymen captive. It is said that on some nights, you can see the whaleboat going down the river surrounded by ghostly flames, with the deceased British soldiers groaning and shooting off ghostly guns. There are also rumors of treasure being sunk to the bottom of the river from the battle, and you can still see the glint of it if you know where to look.
I'm very curious about this treasure and why it would have been on the boat with them if it was, I don't know, why they would have brought it if it was just a standard.
Yeah, and that was
mission.
a question. That's a question I have about this story too. Where is this treasure coming from? Because why would they send loggers out with a whole bunch of treasure if they thought they were going to be attacked by indigenous people?
That's it. There's a lot of layers to this story.
Yeah, and I think that might just be kind of there's ghosts on a boat, and I think that they're kind of conflating it with pirates and putting it all together.
I do find us Nova Scotians, we love a good treasure hunt story. I mean, Oak Island is proof of that.
Exactly. So the second battle took place in 1757, following the expulsion of the Acadians in 1755. Many of the remaining Acadians formed guerrilla bands and allied with the Mi'kmaq to rebel against the ruling British soldiers. One of these guerrilla bands attacked a group of British infantrymen who were cutting firewood, and they killed one and took 7 of the British hostage. The British took a group of 130 soldiers to recover the hostages, but having not learned from their last battle, were attacked by a group of 60 guerrilla soldiers. The British forces had 24 killed or wounded, with the rest escaping back to Annapolis Royal. It is said that the ghosts of the British soldiers can be seen marching at the bottom of the creek, and when the moonlight hits just right, the river runs red with their blood.
That's such a spooky image, the river running red.
Yeah, and it's a place in Steve Vernon's books. He claims that Bloody Creek is one of the most haunted places in Nova Scotia.
Based on all those battles, I can certainly see why it could be.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like there was a lot going on there. It seems like, quite frankly, the British troops didn't really learn their lesson, but it was an interesting spot. I know when we stopped by there, it was neat to see.
Oh, absolutely. When we went to the National Historic Site, it was kind of a shame because someone had stolen the plaque that was there talking about the history of the area. So we got to see the nice big pillar with nothing on it but a sign in front saying, we're replacing this when we can.
Yeah.
But we still got to see the river. And honestly, I can see why it might appear red in certain lights just because it was quite
it had that color
brownish
to it.
tinge. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to do a little segment here. And this is a segment that I want to call Monster by Mistake.
Excellent.
I've named it after the lovely, I believe, Canadian TV show of the same name from the 90s. Look it up if you want to see some prime early 3D animation.
A classic.
But in this, I'm going to talk about common things that have been given monstrous qualities in the past. This isn't necessarily about Nova Scotia or Canada, but just something that I found pretty interesting and related to folklore. So today, I'm going to talk about basil, or specifically basil scorpions.
Oh.
So basil is a herb that's known for a wide range of cuisine. I know it mostly for Italian food, but it's used in many other cuisines in Southeast Asia and Central Africa, with the first written record of it being over 4,000 years ago in Egypt. The name basil comes from translations in many languages that share a link to royalty and is called the royal herb. This also shares a link to the name of the mythological basilisk, which has a name which means little king, with some believing that basil can be used as an antidote for basilisk venom. What might surprise you is that this honorable herb has a prominent place in folklore.
I cannot wait to hear.
In some places, such as India, it was used for warding off evil. In ancient Greece, it was associated with hate and was said that it was only in areas where an abuse had taken place that basil could grow and prosper.
I had no idea basil was so contentious.
I know. Imagine being like, ooh, I want a little pesto, and then needing to find a place that some real terrible things happen.
I wouldn't want that pesto anymore.
I know. But the most surprising piece of folklore related to basil is likely from medieval Europe, where it was believed that it could cause spontaneous generation of scorpions, and that by taking a smell of basil could cause scorpions to enter into the sniffer's brain.
Oh my goodness.
This is maybe best portrayed by a quote from Aristotle. The quote is, "So with animals, some spring from parent animals according to their kind, whilst others grow spontaneously and not from kindred stock. And of these instances of spontaneous generation, some come from putrefying earth or vegetable matter, as is the case with a number of insects, while others are spontaneously generated in the inside of animals out of the secretions of their several organs. This can be based on a 1671 experiment by Jean-Baptiste Van Helmont, where he said, carve an ideation in a brick, fill it with crushed basil, and cover the brick with another, so that the indentation is completely sealed. Expose the 2 bricks to sunlight, and you will find that within a few days, fumes from the basil, acting as a leavening agent, will have transformed the vegetable matter into veritable scorpions." I'm not sure quite why, but people just decided that the smell of basil would cause scorpions in your brain.
Evan, I have a basil plant right outside. Why don't we go take a sniff and see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I really like basil. I think Allie and I had pesto earlier this week.
I eat a weird amount of pesto, I'll be honest.
I know. I mean, we have some in our garden. Sometimes we just add a little bit to a dish. So I think it would be pretty scary if I had some brain scorpions caused by taking a whiff. But
well, only
there you
time
go.
is going to tell.
I guess so. Only time will tell. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of It Came From The Maritimes. You can find us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and TikTok at It Came From The Maritimes, on X at ICFT Maritimes. And if you have any Atlantic Canada folklore you would like to see covered in future episodes, or any spooky encounters of your own, please email us at itcamefromthemaritimes@gmail.com. If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps people find us. And now, we'd like to finish off by giving a little folklore fact or folklore tip. Would you give it to us, Chelsea?
Absolutely. So since one of the stories Evan shared today talks about a ship, well, actually a couple of the stories did, our folklore tip for this episode is never wear gray mittens on a ship. It is bad luck.